Govinda Vinayaka Karandikar, the Marathi poet. So this poem, as well as Karandikar's entire oeuvre, shows a quintessential modernist poet who values in humor, you can say. So humor is an essential element of modernism. If you take Ezra Pound, the British American poet, you can see how it works in him. An underlying stream of humor. So if you look up a Malayalam collection of poems called Nervazhigal, edited by Sachidanandan, one entire section is devoted to humor. And in Malayalam this is there. Modernist poetry, after the age of Romanticism, when it emerged in the hands of poets like Ayyappanikar or N.N. Kakkad or M.N. Palur especially, you can see, in poems like Vimanattavalathil Oru Kavi. Okay. So this humor takes on several trajectories. One, a person who, without being unnecessarily despondent, without suffering from what we call a sense of failure, disappointment, nothing. So he takes it in his stride, whatever happens, the poet. Okay. So what he hasn't achieved is only a smile, taking failures philosophically, taking failures with a smile. This is one aspect. And then satire, critiquing, satirizing, making fun of what we find ridiculous in society, what we find laughable, what we find atrocious. So there is plenty that we find so. So what we do is to laugh at these, okay, to caricature them, okay, as cartoonists do. They do draw caricatures of people and events. So this is one important stream of modernist poetry. So as I said, in Malayalam we have plenty of poets who have written satirical poetry. Chief among them perhaps is Ayyappanikar, okay, who actually began this, okay. And the kind of satirical lines that he has penned. അയലത്തരവയർ നിറയാ പെണ്ണിന് മുഴുവയർ നൽകും മർത്യന് സ്തുതി പാടുക നാം. One very famous couplet of Ayyappanikkar's. Okay. And വെറുമൊരു മോഷ്ടാവായൊരെന്നെ കള്ളനെന്ന് വിളിക്കല്ലേ. So there are many such lines in this poems. Okay. A poem called Moshnam, in which the thief justifies himself. Okay. തേങ്ങ മോഷ്ടിച്ചെങ്കിലത് വെള്ളം കുടിക്കുവാനായിരുന്നു, തുണി മോഷ്ടിച്ചെങ്കിലത് നിങ്ങളുടെ നാണം മാറ്റാനായിരുന്നു. So all such satirical ultra humorous lines abound in Ayyappanikkar's poetry. You can find plenty of them. So he is probably the quintessential modernist humorist in Malayalam, right? So this is a feature of modernist poetry, one aspect of modernist poetry. It is not all serious, Don't take modernist poetry to be a very serious endeavor, okay, project, okay, right from the beginning, from Baudelaire onwards, the French poet who among others began the modernist movement in Europe. Baudelaire also you find humor, okay, looking at his world with a sense of humor, not with bitterness, but with a sense of humor. Okay, amusement, you can say. You're simply amused at what you see. You're not, of course, there is much to be alienated about, much to, criticize, much to be revolted against, to see something happening, to see something atrocious happening in the world. But some poets take all these things in their stride. Okay, just smile. Okay, they are just amused at what is going on. So Vinda Karandikar is such a poet. Okay, a poet with you can say tumultuous experience. Taking part in the freedom struggle. Okay, early in the 1940s. Again, the Hyderabad independence movement. He was born on the border areas of Hyderabad state, some of which protruded into modern Maharashtra. Okay, Hyderabad was a princely state which sprawled in 3 states: Andhra, Karnataka, and Maharashtra. So Karandikar was involved in this agitation. Then, of course, he was involved in the Quit India movement. Okay, very eventful life. Okay, born in this Sindhudurg district in Maharashtra. Although not a very studious student, he managed to get his BA in English. Then, during the 1940s, he got his MA also from Bombay University. Okay, a well-read person who translated such works like King Lear into Marathi, Shakespeare's King Lear, and Aristotle's Poetics. So Karandikar has distinguished himself as a translator also, you see, and his poems, 3 or 4, are available on the net. An entire collection is available in English. Okay. So if you read some of these, 1 or 2 I have posted for you in the group. You can go through them. So you'll find this kind of poet like Ayyappa Panikar. You can say Ayyappa Panikar is the closest poet to Karandikar in Malayalam. A person with a vast knowledge of not only literature but other discourses also, history, politics. Ayyappa Panikar was such a person, Karandikar also. So if you read this poem that we are doing, The Traitor, you will find how he makes use of what he knows in world politics and literature. Okay, and the sense of not let us say despondency or failure, but a sense of mere amusement, a philosophical resignation, you can say, resignation to let things be as they are. Okay, so why should I rage against them? Okay, I'll just laugh at them. I'll just be amused. Okay, so remember the poem that we did on a poem by Dhumil, Evening, an Old Man, okay, where the poet reflects somewhat, let us say, not humorously, but somewhat vacuously, without any rage. Okay, there also amusement you can find, but not the kind of humor that you find in Karandikar. Of course, Dhumil also talks about people who get salvation by walking on the left side of the road, right side of the road. So satire is there in Dhumil also, but it is in Karandikar that you find a quintessential, a typical satire being employed. Okay. So what I am trying to say is that all these different ways of approaching life, whether it is through satire or serious rumination, okay, or nostalgia, as you found in K.G. Chankarapilla's Kochiyile Vrikshangal, all these will definitely converge. Okay, പല ഭാഗത്തും വന്നിട്ട് അത് ഒന്നായി ചേരുകയാണ്, like streams joining together to become a river. So modernism has such different streams that you find joining together to become the great modernist river. Okay, so let's look at Karandikar's poem, Traitor. Yeah. So remember, like Dhumil's poem, this is also written against the background of war, probably the Indo-Pakistan War of 1971. So the opening lines tells us about the futility of war. Okay, so nothing can be solved by war. Not even a handful of green will grow if you pour on a heap as big as the Himalayas blood as much as the Indian Ocean. You know, blood will not serve to make things grow. Blood is not water. You can't solve problems by going to war. So if you pour as much blood as you can find water in the Indian Ocean, okay, on a heap of soil as big as the Himalayas, not even a handful of plants will grow. So this is probably a well-known saying or popular saying in Marathi. Okay, so the author says, a crank still swears by this. A crank is a bad man. It is what's a very common term to call somebody a crank. Okay, to call somebody a crank. Okay, so a crank still swears by this. A madman, somebody who has a loose screw in his head, okay, slightly deranged. So he lives somewhere in a bylane of Bombay. He trembles with nameless fear and makes water when he hears the street dogs bark. Call him coward rather than crank. So the war is going on, and people who express outrageous views like this, that you can't make plants grow by watering them with blood. Yeah. So yet such people are also cowards. They don't have the guts to speak out aloud. Okay. Now this is something which is often said about writers and intellectuals. They are cowards. They do not have the wherewithal. They do not have the courage to speak out. They are all cowards underneath the veneer of activism. That's what it is. So they even make water. They urinate. പേടിച്ച് മൂത്രമൊഴിച്ചു പോകും when they hear street dogs bark. So the ideal name for such intellectuals, writers, activists is coward rather than crank. So it's better to call them cowards. Yeah. So he gulps down his daily ration of liquid fire served by the morning papers. So what kind of media do you find? The media is always suspect, whether it is today or then. So the media publishes provocative articles, news. When there is a war, it publishes provocative news, full of patriotism, okay, raging against the enemy, okay. So this is what the intellectual gets. Every morning there is a daily ration of liquid fire served by the morning papers, every day. And then to expiate the sin, fingers the love locks of children. Okay. So by reading such news, okay, news which is provocative, sensational, he has committed a sin. Yeah. അപ്പോൾ അതിന് പ്രായശ്ചിത്തം ചെയ്യാനെന്നാണ് എന്ത് ചെയ്യും, വഴി പോകുന്ന കുട്ടികളെ തലോടും, മുടിയൊക്കെ ഇങ്ങനെ തലോടിക്കൊണ്ടിരിക്കും. Okay. He fingers the love locks of children, reads the Gita and warns himself, don't you touch a weapon, beware. Okay. ആയുധങ്ങൾ തുടരുത്, ആയുധങ്ങൾ അപകടമാണ്. But what is he reading? That is the biggest joke. Gita, Bhagavad Gita. So Bhagavad Gita is if you know, it's a poem which exhorts Arjuna to war. Okay. Arjuna was very reluctant to fight against his own cousins. But Krishna told him that you must fight. It is dharma. So he reads the Gita, which is not an anti-war document. That's a joke. So he reads the Gita and warns himself, don't you touch a weapon, beware. He opens his umbrella only to remember the nuclear mushroom. So what is that? What is a nuclear mushroom? So have you seen photographs of the American bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki in 1945? Yeah, it's horrifying. The nuclear bombs raise huge clouds which look like mushrooms, mushroom-shaped cloud. So the sight is horrifying. More than 100,000 people were killed immediately, and many more became severely affected by the nuclear attack. Okay. They became ill. They had continuous bouts of illness. Even their children were affected. So this image of the mushroom cloud immediately recalls the American bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki in Japan. Okay. So, but intellectuals have a certain kind of quirky mind. So even when they open an umbrella, they think of the bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. So it's a joke. So people who don't do anything, who survive purely by writing poetry or making paintings, okay, who don't do anything concrete to stop war. Okay, but even when they open an umbrella, they suddenly think of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, the towns in Japan which American bomber planes bombed. Okay, so our intellectual, once he opens his umbrella, thinks of the mushroom cloud which rose in the Japanese cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki as the American bomber planes attacked them, and places his hand on just anybody's shoulder to regain his balance. Okay, so the very sight of an umbrella unsettles him. Yeah, so it reminds him of Hiroshima, and he nearly faints. അത് ഓർക്കുമ്പോൾ തന്നെ ഈ ബുദ്ധിജീവിക്ക് അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ആക്ടിവിസ്റ്റിന് എന്താ പറയുക, തല കറങ്ങുന്നു, becomes giddy, and he leans on somebody's shoulder to steady himself. Okay. He cries like a neuter effeminately when he hears the war songs in khaki uniforms. Yeah. He cries like a neuter. Neuter is a person, what you call today transgenders. Somebody who is neither male nor female. They were, or they are still very commonly found in Bombay. They have colonies. They have small communities of, they are called hijadas in Hindi. So he cries like a neuter. This is a little prejudiced, you know. This poem is therefore not very politically correct. You can't call somebody a hijra. To call somebody a hijra is not politically correct now. But when Karandikar wrote this poem, it was to see a man cry, one would think he is a hijra, effeminate. Okay, so a man oughtn't to cry, ought to be very serious, bold, etc. So this particular expression today is politically incorrect. You can't do that. Anyway, he cries like a neuter when he hears war songs in khaki uniform. When soldiers sing their marching songs, he cries. Call him traitor rather than neuter. But it's better to call him a traitor because he is against the country. Okay. So all these poems of Karandikar, this and other poems will have a different reading today. When you know patriotism is becoming a weapon in the hands of some politically motivated person. Okay, you have to prove your patriotism. Okay, otherwise you are not a citizen of the country. So during the times when Karandikar wrote this poem, probably in the early 1970s, Karandikar was also trying to make fun of this contrived patriotism. Okay, patriotism which is imposed upon him. Right? Okay. So, chewing his nut of Nemesis, he raves through awake. Now, who is Nemesis? Nemesis is the goddess of revenge. Not revenge actually, of let us say justice. Nemesis. So if you do something, they say Nemesis will catch up with you. You know, you do something, you will get the fruits of your deed. Okay. So it is Nemesis, the goddess, who delivers justice. So chewing is not of Nemesis. Cheyda പാപത്തിന്റെ എന്താ പറയുക പഴം തിന്നുകൊണ്ട് നട്ട് കടലയോ എന്താണെന്ന് വെച്ചാൽ that's what he is eating, munching. No. He raves. Okay. He raves as if he is talking in his sleep. Okay. എന്തൊക്കെയോ പിച്ചും പേയും പറയും. Rave. പിച്ചും പേയും പറയും. He raves though he is awake. How I would love to live and see Picasso's dove flying in the sky. So he is referring to a painting by Pablo Picasso, the Spanish painter, who lived during the Second World War. One of his paintings is very famous. It's called Guernica, Guernica. Guernica. Guernica is actually a town in Spain, which was bombed by German planes. And the destruction that was caused by this bombing, Picasso converted it into a painting. Okay, it's one of his most famous paintings, Guernica. So this painting, which the speaker talks about, is another one, in which you find doves flying into sky. പ്രാവുകൾ, വെള്ളരിപ്രാവുകൾ, സമാധാനത്തിന്റെ വെള്ളരിപ്രാവുകൾ. What we say in Malayalam also. So this expression is related to this painting of Picasso's. So our young man, our coward, says, how I would love to live and see Picasso's dove flying in the sky. Okay. യുദ്ധം ഒന്നുമില്ലാത്തൊരു സമാധാനത്തിന്റെ കാലം ഞാൻ ഇനി എന്താണ് കാണുക? So this wish is okay, but who expresses this wish? Somebody who is a coward, somebody who does nothing to stop war. Okay, he has no contributions to make to bring peace to the world. അപ്പോൾ ഒന്നുമില്ല, വെറുതെ എങ്ങനെ ഒരു രസത്തിന് വേണ്ടി പറഞ്ഞുകൊണ്ടിരിക്കും. ഓക്കെ, കൊട കാണുമ്പോൾ ഹിരോഷിമയിലെ ബോംബിങ് ഓർമ്മ വരും. ഇങ്ങനെ ഓക്കെ, ഭഗവത്ഗീത വായിക്കും, യുദ്ധത്തിനെ പറ്റിയുള്ള വാർത്ത വായിച്ചതിൻ്റെ സങ്കടം തീർക്കാൻ കുട്ടികളിങ്ങനെ Talodu. So a typical hypocritical personality in the form of an intellectual. So please, this is a very short lecture of half an hour. You've already seen the other 3 poems, so I'll get back to you, okay, next week. So I think I have discussed all the 4 poems now. And please go through those 2 books I sent you, which will make very interesting reading. Okay, try to read at least half a dozen poems you find at random. Okay, so you'll get a feel of what Indian poetry after 1947 is like, how it moves on to modernism, political modernism, etc. Those things which I talked about. Okay, bye.